radio is broadcast on LSL Podcast Channel. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to the channel.
I was watching General Kelly yesterday when, where was I? I guess I was at Fox getting ready for Dana Perino's show. So I was on her show, The Daily Briefing, and it happens when you have a live TV event that you have to wait until the live event is over, but I was sitting in the chair. And Kelly comes out into the briefing room. I'm thinking, that's what Perino used to do. She was in the briefing room, but Kelly comes out, the chief of staff to Trump. And he had them in the first 20 seconds of being there. Now, when I said he had them, he had the press in the palm of his hands. Now, why is that? What did I say yesterday on the air? That President Trump would do better on occasion to deal with the press in the manner of, more Reagan, more Kelly, where you do call the press out. And we're going to hear this soundbite in a moment. You do call the press out, but you do it in a way that is a bit more whimsical. You hold a little back. You don't strafe them with fire all in one tweet. Let's listen.
Peel back the curtain for us, since you're in a first row vantage point with the president. What are his frustrations right now?
One of his frustrations is you. All of you. Not all of you, but many of you. When I read in the morning and watch TV in the morning, it is astounding to me how much is misreported. I will give you the benefit of the doubt that you are operating off of
why bother?
Contacts, leaks, whatever you call them. But I would just offer to you the advice I'd say, maybe develop some better sources.
Well, there was some reaction on Twitter yesterday from the usual suspects, some who were not in the room, claiming their sources are plenty good enough. In fact, the whole White House is in total chaos. Trump is screaming, "I hate everybody," and the wheels are off. And Kelly goes up there and he says, "Look, I'm new at this, but this is the greatest job. This is the most difficult job I've ever had. One of the most challenging. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not being fired today. I'm not quitting today. This is about renewing the country." I sat there and I'm sitting in the chair in the studio waiting to go on. I'm thinking, this is exactly what we need. We need more of this. Now, not that I don't love when President Trump tweaks them on Twitter. I think that's great. And I said this last night in Philadelphia. We had a great event in Sewell, New Jersey. Actually, it's a kind of a bedroom community of Philly. But last night we had a great event with WPHT for the Billionaire at the Barricades tour. And I was up in front of this audience. I don't know, it was close to 1,000 people. And I said to the crowd, "I'm sorry with all the criticism, and he's not perfect, but I love Trump. I love the fact that he's holding up a mirror to these people." The place went crazy because we love him too. So even though sometimes you want him to pull back a little bit, and you send the Kelly out, and he kind of loves him up a little bit, but then when you kind of realize after the thing is over, after they're smiling in the press briefing room, wait a second, he just insulted us. He just insulted us, but he did it with kind of a velvet tongue, velvet glove, whatever you want to say. We're here broadcasting at the beautiful Liberty University in Lynchburg, Virginia. We took the flight down here. They were nice enough to come pick us up last night. And I am so stoked because we're going to be doing, which was something we haven't done in quite a while. We're doing a broadcast in front of thousands of people coming up in just about an hour or so. And we're going to be with about 12,000 students who are going to be gathering for convocation. And we're going to talk to Cal Thomas is going to join us, who I first met. This is like when you're really old. I first met in 1983, I think, or 1983, when he was working for Reverend Falwell. He was doing the communications for Reverend Falwell, and Dinesh D'Souza and I got Dartmouth College to invite Falwell to speak on campus. And there were lots of grumblings and there was some protests, but it wasn't like it is today. But Thomas came. That's how I first met Cal Thomas. And that's all those years ago. I was 18 years old. So much fun. So he's going to be here today. Also, we're going to talk to Jerry Falwell Jr., who's now running the whole university. I don't even recognize it.
What an unbelievable university.
This place is unbelievable. Everything is state of the art. Everything is beyond tech advanced and tech friendly. The building, it's like, were all the buildings built like last week? They're so brand spanking new. It is absolutely beautiful. These kids here are so nice, one after the other. It's just been a lot of fun so far, and I can't wait to talk to all of them. We're going to talk. Raymond Arroyo is with, and he's going to be doing a Q&A based on
billionaire at the barricades Q&A.
Oh, it's beyond
and
over
then,
the barricades.
And then we're opening it up to
questions.
the students at Liberty, which will be fun and unpredictable.
No, we don't know where the students are going to take it, which is fine. Willie Robertson's son is here, by the way. Yeah, I ran into him, and of course, the first thing I say to him, he was helping us at the breakfast bar. They have like an incredible setup. I've never had a better breakfast bar in my life. Incredible setup over here near the studio. And I say to the kid behind the breakfast bar, he has a tie and a jacket on. I said, "When are you going to cut your hair?" It's the first thing I said to him. I'm like Maxine on the Hallmark cards. Like, "When are you cutting your hair?" And it's like, "It's Willie Robertson's kid." I'm like, "Okay, sorry. I know Willie's a good friend of mine. Sorry about that." It's
Don't
hilarious.
pick on my Louisiana.
I'm sorry, but I said you get an exemption because of the Duck Dynasty connection, but other than that, cut your hair. Okay, it was hilarious. These kids are great, so we're really looking forward to speaking to the students and the national audience. We think sometimes that all hope is lost in the university setting. It is not. Curious, great, aggressive learners, love of country, love of the Lord. These are amazing people, and we're going to have a great conversation. So back to Kelly. Raymond, when I watched him yesterday, I thought to myself, gosh, this guy with his Massachusetts accent, New England accent.
New England, yeah.
And I'm watching him, and I think, gosh, this is why he was a successful general. He assesses the room. He looks at. He's been observing the battlefield for weeks now, and he comes in and he basically says, "Look, all of you think you know why I was brought in here. Think again. Let's listen."
I was not sent into or brought in to control him, and you should not measure my effectiveness as a chief of staff by what you think I should be doing, but simply the fact is I can guarantee to you that he is now presented with options, well thought out options. Those options are discussed in detail with his team, and then he comes up with the right decision.
He wasn't brought in to control Trump. He was brought in to get the job done, to get the information flow there, and I don't know whether they thought that they were going to get him to go in there and say, "Yeah, it's the worst job I've ever had. I can't make any progress, and Trump is an idiot." Did they think that he was going to go out and say that? By the way, Stephanie Cutter, where is she from? MSNBC?
MSNBC. Even she's coming around.
Well, let's listen to what she said.
I think what John Kelly did today is to show that there's an adult at home in the White House and reassured people that there is somebody with some sense of things, that it's not pure chaos. There is a decision-making process.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, I mean, this is...
Thanks a lot.
Oh, my God. But some, I got to say, other reporters are like, "We're not falling for your Kelly tricks. And we're not falling for your tricks." By the way, we will have to unpack the latest on the Hollywood meltdown over Harvey Weinstein. There is a meltdown at every level of Hollywood over this expose. And now Emma Thompson has gotten into the act saying the real problem is extreme masculinity. That actress. That we have men who are too manly. That the macho culture. Let me just say, I look at Harvey Weinstein, the first thing that comes to my mind is not macho. And it's not manly. Bovine maybe comes to mind.
Slob,
Jabba the Hutt, sexual predator, Jabba the Hutt. This is like something out of a horror movie. By the way, it's Friday the 13th. And also our feast day of Our Lady of Fatima.
Yes.
Correct, Raymond?
Big day.
Will you to set the stage for this great place we're in? We're going to talk to kids who, many of them have a very, very strong faith. Obviously, we're Catholics. We're doing a whole,
It's an ecumenical
interfaith kind of thing today. Tell me about Our Lady of Fatima. It's the 100th anniversary today.
Today is the 100th anniversary of the last vision of Our Lady of Fatima. 100 years ago, she appears to these 3 shepherd children. She tells them just really to pray for peace pray the rosary for peace, offer their sufferings for peace. And then she told them to gather people into a field, which they did. And today, 100 years ago, the sun pulsated. It flew in circles. They have video of this, people being amazed. And by the way, she asked...
How do they have video?
They do. They have film of it. They have film of it. It's raw film. It's photographs. Okay. I mean, but amazing pictures of what happened. Massive conversions there. But it was a supernatural miracle in the sky. She asked them to pray for the conversion of Russia. Remember, this is before World War II.
So the Orthodox Russian Tsarist... No, it was before...
it was before World War I, right on the edge of World War I and II.
It was 1917.
Yeah, right on the edge of World War I and II.
So pray for the conversion of Russia.
Pray for peace, pray for the conversion of Russia. And consecrate it to my son and to me. And
today they in Fatima they have
a huge celebration.
It's a really important feast day for Catholics and in a beautiful celebration.
Yeah, and a call that prayer can bring about peace, and we sometimes forget that.
Now, I was on the 700 Club yesterday.
I saw you.
Did you see me with Pat Robertson? I have not talked to him. I don't think I talked to him since my last. Well, maybe. I don't know, 6 years ago.
You're touching all the great icons.
I am. I'm going through all the different
all
icons.
The great faith leaders.
Yes.
Pat Robertson. Now you're touching the stone of Falwell.
But I asked Reverend Robertson. It's got to be 90s. He's got to be in his 90s, right?
I think he's early, maybe just 90.
Okay, so I asked him at the end of the segment, which was they did a whole piece on my book. They sent a reporter. They did an entire piece on Billionaire at the Barricades.
It was like an expose.
So at the end, I said, "Would you pray for me? Because it's brutal. This whole, the book tour, the show, and my kids. I'm trying to balance it all." And he said, well, "Laura, let me pray for." I like doing my impersonation because Raymond does it better. "Laura, let me pray for you now." And I said, "Great, awesome." So we prayed on the air together, and I did the sign of the cross. And I didn't want to offend anybody there, but I did the sign of the cross, and I said, "Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle." Because that's a great St. Michael prayer, which smites the devil. Oh, no, it was awesome. I was like, I felt the power. I felt the Holy Spirit. I felt the power. It was it was all there. The Trinity, it was awesome. So I just loved it.
Pat Robertson is 87 years old.
87. He's unbelievable. The man is unbelievable. By the way, we're going to get into the Obamacare subsidies ending Donald Trump's executive order. I knew that Rand Paul was up to something, because when I had dinner with him some weeks ago, he's like, "You're gonna see something's happening." I said, "Give me some sense of what's happening on the Obamacare." I can't tell you, but it's big. He's been working on this with Trump for a long time. Boy, we've come a long way from "I'm going to do everything in my power to defeat Donald Trump during the primary" to standing next to the president. I love it. Good for Rand Paul. We're going to take a break. 855-40-LAURA. How much do we love General Kelly, and how much do we love the fact that Donald Trump uses his Article 1 authority to not unconstitutionally untangle us from Obamacare, but within his constitutional right and his regulatory power to do just what he did yesterday. 855-40-LAURA, broadcasting here in spectacular, beautiful, always generous, and so hospitable Liberty University on the Billionaire at the Barricades. I depend on my car to run errands, to get to work, just like you do. So let me ask you this. If your car broke down today, could you afford the repairs? I don't worry about that anymore because I have extended vehicle service protection from CarShield. Replacing your engine can cost thousands. Even a simple repair to the sensor, not so simple, can cost over $1,000 as well. CarShield's affordable extended vehicle service protection can save you thousands for a covered repair. And they cover practically everything. You can have your favorite mechanic or dealership do the work with CarShield, and then you get the mechanic paid directly. You don't have to worry about getting reimbursed. So get covered by CarShield today, and you'll get the VIP treatment from CarShield's administrators, 24/7 roadside assistance, and a rental while yours is in the shop. So call 800-CAR-6100 and mention the code LAURA, or just visit carshield.com and use the code LAURA to save 10%. That's carshield.com, code LAURA. Here at Liberty University in Lynchburg, Virginia. This is the last place in Lynchburg, which is a beautiful community. This was a rural community, a farming community. It's shown great growth. Lots of businesses come into Lynchburg. But I will say that it's now become a problem with MS-13 here. It's become it's not like a mini sanctuary. Why am I saying that? Because it's a little bit off the interstate. And we've seen problems here because there's no dedicated task force in this part of Virginia to deal with the rise of MS-13. That's what a couple of my new friends here have told me. 3 MS-13 gang members were detained in the spring in the death of a 17-year-old named Raymond Wood of Bedford County. It's right in this area. Raymond Wood was decapitated. Lynchburg never had a problem, like never had any of these problems. When I was here, again, going back 30 years, there was no MS-13. The politicians who Donald Trump exposed in 2016 allowed this to happen to rural America, suburban America, urban America, where we opened up the borders to all this problem and all these problems. And Jeff Sessions and Donald Trump are trying to do something about this now. This is a scandal.
Don't forget Fairfax, Virginia, that hearing today for the MS-13 member that killed that 17-year-old Muslim girl with a baseball bat.
Oh, beat her son, beat her to death.
So then that's going on as well. The pretrial hearing is today. So this is happening in a place like Virginia that once was so beautiful and safe.
And I talked to folks here in Lynchburg. They said we never lock our doors. We never locked our doors back then. I said last time I was here in the 80s, like the 80s. There was no problem. We had immigration was no problem. The Reagan 1986 Simpson-Mazzoli deal will go down as one of Reagan's biggest mistakes. But guess what? He thought that when Congress passed a law saying they were going to do all this enforcement, it would be done. This is why Donald Trump cannot make the same mistake. Cannot do amnesty and a promise of future enforcement. You must do enforcement over a several-year period and verify that it's being done. Then maybe cut some deal. But you must enforce this border. You must build the wall. You must completely eradicate this MS-13 gang problem in this country. When Lynchburg, Virginia is dealing with this, then we got a real problem. 855-40-LAURA. We have Rand Paul is going to join us. We're going to talk about this Obamacare repeal by regulation. All you need to know. Don't go away. From running errands to going out with my family, getting to the studio, come on, I depend on my car just like you all do. Let me ask you this. If your car broke down today, can you afford the repairs? I mean, I don't worry about it. You don't have to worry about it if you become a member of CarShield. That gives you extended vehicle service protection past your manufacturer's warranty when that thing sails, when you don't have that anymore. Replacing your transmission, engine, this stuff costs thousands of dollars. Even a sensor, that computer chip in your car, forget about it. You need to have CarShield protection. That way they get the mechanic paid directly, so you don't have to write the check to the dealership or mechanic. And talk about peace of mind. You just get it with CarShield. They have 24/7 roadside assistance and a rental while yours is in the shop. Just go to carshield.com, use that code LAURA, and you'll save 10%. That's carshield.com, code LAURA. Remember, don't worry about being able to afford car repairs if your car is out of its manufacturer's warranty. Go to carshield.com, code LAURA. Deductible may apply. I think Rand Paul actually smiled once yesterday. He did. The senator from Kentucky, who is a libertarian, had a lot of concerns about Trump during the primaries, obviously ran for president himself. But boy, that was kind of a rabbit out of their hat. Who was expecting this to happen? Joining us now, the aforementioned, always jocular and mirthful and smiling, my friend, Rand Paul. Hey, Senator Paul, how are you?
Very good. The president was cracking me up yesterday. Yes, big smile, laughter, the whole works.
Oh, my gosh. Sergio messaged me. Sergio Gore is one of Rand Paul's senior aides, and he messaged me and he sent me a picture of you up there, and you were not smiling, and he said, I couldn't get him to smile yesterday, even when he was like the star of the show and it was this amazing thing. I said, that's okay because he's smiling on the inside, Senator Paul. You're smiling on, well, we were smiling. I always have to tease you. I always have to tease you. What is it about me? I have to tease my guests about something. And it breaks the ice because I'm watching Chris Cuomo this morning on CNN, Senator Paul, and he was grilling Congressman Jim Jordan and saying, well, I thought you people were against executive orders for and doing an end run around Congress, and now that's exactly what the president's doing, and da-da-da-da. How do you respond to that criticism, which we're now hearing echo all through cable news?
We were against and still are against executive orders that create new government programs, that create new programs that were never intended by the law, and that's what President Obama did. What President Trump did yesterday was basically say, we're going to reevaluate the regulations about the sale of insurance, and we're going to see if they comply with the original intention of the law. And so I think that's a much different thing. So what President Trump costs no money. It's not going to create any government program. It legalizes basically the freedom to join an association. And I've made the point that the First Amendment actually guarantees your right of peaceable assembly, and that's been interpreted to be free association for economic gain and economic benefit by the Supreme Court. And so I don't see how that in any way is an abuse of an executive order. He's doing this also with the EPA. He's looking at the overreach of Obama. So if you have an executive order that undoes executive overreach, is that a bad thing? No, I think that's a great thing that President Trump is using the executive order to undo the overreach of Obama.
Well, does this really gut Obamacare, or does it kind of play with Obamacare around the edges, because you do free up these exchanges? I think a lot of people don't even understand what that means, but how does this really dismantle the marketplace?
I don't think the intention is to dismantle Obamacare. The intention is to give people choice. And here's the thing, 50 million people in our country belong to associations. If a decent chunk of them form health associations, we're talking about millions and millions of people buying insurance across state lines and getting a better price. There are 28 million people under Obamacare that never got insurance. Many of them work in our fast food restaurants. What if the National Restaurant Association forms one of these, and every fast food worker in the whole country can sign up to have one person negotiate their rate? If one person negotiates for 15 million people, you're going to get a great rate. The other thing about the liberals on this is they keep saying, oh, you're going to get terrible insurance, it's going to be bare bones insurance. And what they're not realizing is we already allow cross-state purchase by big corporations. And guess what? Over half of the private marketplace already buys it across state lines through these ERISA plans. So when they say you're going to get bad insurance, ask the people who work for Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Amazon, Microsoft, and Amgen if they like their insurance. My guess is you'll find people who have great insurance. I think there's a possibility that through the market pressure of millions of people, that not only you get less expensive insurance, you're going to get better insurance.
Well, I think that when the left is trying to react to this, they're scrambling, Senator Paul, because most people know who've had to deal with their new insurance under Obamacare. They know that the out-of-pocket costs are so high, they're so prohibitive, and their deductibles are so high that it's like not having insurance at all, because they literally, for some people it's like 12. You have to hit the $12,000 level before you start getting any reimbursement. And so right. I think most people are seeing this going, well, this kind of makes sense at this point, because it's not really health care. It's access to insurance in theory. That's what it is.
And here's how this is so much different and better than the fake repeal plans that some of the Republicans have put forward. One, it costs no money. But two, instead of subsidizing the individual market, which is completely broken, and we just keep throwing good money after bad, instead of giving subsidies to insurance companies, we tell everyone in the individual market, guess what? You can get out of the individual market, you can get into group insurance, and you're going to get the same kind of insurance that big corporations are allowed to get in our country. If you look at the marketplace that exists right now for the large corporations that already buy across state lines, their premiums have been going up 2 or 3% a year. If you look at the individual market, premiums have gone up 100% under Obamacare. So this has great potential, and I think could affect millions of people, could completely disrupt and bring the insurance companies on bended knee to the consumer.
We're talking to Senator Rand Paul here on the Laura Ingraham Show. The disaster in Puerto Rico, the president is concerned about cost. The House of Representatives sent over a $36.7 billion supplemental to help both Puerto Rico, of course, in Texas, also in Florida. A huge cost there for the rebuild and the recovery. As far as we can tell, and we asked congressmen about this on air yesterday, including Speaker Ryan, there are no offsets being asked for. There are no offsets, spending offsets being requested or pursued as this supplemental is being considered. What about that? Republicans are supposed to be fiscal stewards and fiscal conservatives, and yet we're writing checks for $37 billion, and there's no trimming anywhere else.
Well, here's the analogy, Laura. If I ask you for $1,000 for a good cause to feed some people, and you didn't have enough money to feed your own children, or you had to go to a bank to borrow the money, would that make any sense at all? Would you be a compassionate person if you took money that you could not feed your kids and gave it to someone, or you took money and you went to the bank and borrowed money to give to a charity? That doesn't make any sense. So what I've been saying is we should pay for it. And there are ways to pay for it. If you did a 1% across the board cut in other spending, in other things, and you said, we're going to take care of Puerto Rico and Florida and Texas now, but we're going to do it, and everybody else in government's going to have to say 1 penny out of every dollar you're going to spend less, I think that's the way we should do it. And so when it comes to the Senate, that's what I will introduce, is a 1% across the board cut to pay for it.
I want to help you on that. I want to do everything I can to spread the word on that, because I'm just beyond sick of these Republicans writing checks with our money or borrowing money from China or Japan or Germany or printing money without and you all are in control, and then there's no, we can't worry about the offsets now. We'll worry about in the next budget consideration. That's what they were saying to us yesterday, because John Cornyn in Texas is demanding that this supplemental pass without any strings attached. John Cornyn is demanding this, and Louisiana, they want their help as well. I mean, everybody wants their own help.
And here's the mistake of Republicans. Republicans think, donors are unhappy with us, and we're not going to win in 2018 if we don't we have to do something. We have to show that we can govern. And in fact, the reality is, if you go home and talk to Republicans in your state, they want us to govern in a conservative way. They want us not to add to the debt. They want us to be different than the Democrats. So people up here completely misinterpret it. They're seeing all these primary challenges, and they're like, it's because we're not governing, and if we would just pass fake repeal of Obamacare, and if we would just pass legislation to give money to Puerto Rico and look like we could govern, we'll get reelected. And I'm like, no, not if you're not any different than the Democrats. People are going to stay home. They're going to quit giving you money, and they're going to say, why bother if you guys are no better than the Democrats?
Well, I think we're going to see a revolt among the grassroots if this tax reform doesn't get done. I predict it's going to be a disaster if the Senate does not get its act together on tax reform. What do you think will happen? What's your prediction?
I'll tell you, I met with the president yesterday on tax reform, and I'm encouraged, because when I pointed out to him that I was fearful that the middle class would get a tax increase under the Paul Ryan plan, he looked at me and he said, it will not happen. He pointed at his staff assembled, and he said, you have to fix this problem. I'm convinced he's going to fix it, but I'm also convinced, had I not been squawking to high heaven about this, that it wouldn't be fixed, because right now the middle-income taxpayers pay at the 25% rate, and they're going to take away two big deductions but leave the rate the same. Explain to me how you're going to pay. You're not going to have a tax increase if your rate stays the same and they get rid of two big deductions. I'm fine with getting rid of the deductions, but you've either got to lower the rates or change the brackets significantly. And why we worry about this is when Paul Ryan put this out a year ago, he did the exact same thing in his plan, and he did nothing to the brackets. These people are so wedded to policy of getting rid of deductions, and I'm not saying their policy is not a good one, but they're so wedded to the policy they've forgotten that the primary directive of conservatives is not to raise people's taxes, and in fact it's to lower taxes first, and then you can work on your policy. If your policy agrees with lowering taxes, I'm for it. But if you get rid of something you say is good policy and raise everybody's taxes, you have mistaken your mandate.
Senator Paul, before we let you go, the media reporting on the mood of the president, claiming that he's not in command of details, he's in a dark, foul mood, that the White House is in turmoil and chaos. That's been reported in the New York Times, the Washington Post, publication after publication in recent days. General Kelly came out and addressed that and put those concerns down. But you've spent a lot of time with the president lately. Tell us, don't have to reveal the substance, but tell us the way he is behind closed doors. Is he engaged? Is he in a foul, dark mood? Tell us.
Completely fake news. I was in the Oval Office for quite a bit of time yesterday. I met not only with the president, the vice president, the budget director, everybody was collegial, everybody was enjoined, everybody was concerned with the problem. The president's on top of this tax bill, and I can tell you he has a force of character, and he says he's not going to raise taxes on the middle class, and I believe him, but I'm glad I brought it to his attention because I do believe that the powers that be in Washington are not concerned enough about the middle class, and they are concerned about this policy of getting rid of the state deductibility of taxes more than they are about how much we pay in taxes. But I think that I saw General Kelly yesterday. I saw so all that other stuff.
Yeah.
These are still people these are crybaby stuff from people who lost the election. They're all Clinton supporters, and they're all still, crying, about how she lost the election and trying to blame everybody but their candidate.
Senator Paul, crybaby stuff from the media and others who never really wanted Trump to be successful. We really appreciate your efforts and fiscal stewardship, and on this Obamacare issue, you've been relentless. We really appreciate it, and I think I saw a smile somewhere. There was a smile yesterday. We're going to take a break.
Thanks,
Senator Paul, seriously, we're so proud of you. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to take a break on the Laura Ingraham Show, 855-40-LAURA, here at the Billionaire at the Barricades tour in beautiful Liberty University. Food for the Poor has now moved its operations in the Caribbean to the much devastated and needy and desperate Puerto Rico. So our partnership with Food for the Poor is going to be so important for the rebuilding and the recovery efforts still throughout the American territory. This is America, guys, and our friends at Food for the Poor get the help to those who are most devastated by this horrific hurricane, two hurricanes, one after the other, and it gets the help right to them. Remember, 95% of all donations to Food for the Poor go right to help those in need. And remember, just $50 will help a child survive for the next year in Puerto Rico with finally getting that water going and food, and $250 does the same for an average, and this is an American family in Puerto Rico. So I want you to go to lauraingraham.com, click on that banner ad there for Food for the Poor, or call them to help our American brothers and sisters in Puerto Rico. Call Food for the Poor at 844-868-4673. Again, Puerto Rico is in need, and we're Americans helping Americans with Food for the Poor. 844-868-4673. You're listening to the Laura Ingraham Show. Billionaire at the Barricades. Our tour continues today here at Liberty University, moving on to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, late this afternoon. Tomorrow, I'll be speaking, where Donald Trump is speaking in a few moments, at the Values Voters Summit in Washington, D.C. So if you want to come see me in any of those locations, just go to lauraingraham.com. And the Values Voters Summit, I'm going to give a speech, and then I'm going to do a big book signing. We have a lot of friends who are showing up in the Washington, D.C. area, so looking forward to that. I'll be at Barnes & Noble tonight in Myrtle Beach, and with Kelly Ward next week in Scottsdale, Arizona on Tuesday. Make sure to go to lauraingraham.com. We want to retire Jeff Flake, help Kelly Ward, and keep my book at the top of the New York Times list. The Populist Revolution, from Reagan to Trump. We can do it together. Don't go away. You are listening to the Laura Ingraham Show, 855-40-LAURA, the Billionaire at the Barricades tour, the Populist Revolution from Reagan to Trump. The tour continuing today. We're at Liberty University in beautiful Lynchburg, Virginia, and so many new friends, old friends. I feel like coming home in a little way. It's just wild. This has been a whirlwind just over the last 72 hours. We were in the Philly area and South Jersey last night, moving on to Myrtle Beach later today. And we'll be at the Values Voters Summit tomorrow in Washington, and next week with Kelly Ward, who wants to defeat Jeff Flake. In Scottsdale, Arizona, Steve Bannon is coming. We're going to do a huge event for Kelly, and we're going to do a book signing there. And also we're going to be in Las Vegas at a private event. But then next week we'll be in West Palm Beach, and then we're getting ready to launch the new Fox show. So it's a jam-packed couple of weeks, and I'm absolutely thrilled that my old friend Jerry Falwell Jr., who's the president of this incredible school, Liberty University, who've been so great and welcoming me here right before we go on stage. Jerry Falwell's with us now. Jerry, great to see you. Thanks for rolling out the red carpet. You guys, I got to come hang out here more often. How you doing?
It's great to see you again. I'm just so honored to have you here and so proud of what you've done for our country the last year or two, many years, but especially the last year or two.
Jerry, let's remember back on Sunday night, midnight, the Sunday before the election was 48 hours away, less than 40 hours away, 36 hours away. And you and I met in this bus in Leesburg, Virginia. We were waiting for the president, who was finishing a 5-state tour all in one day, and he was ending it kind of at the last minute. They organized this in 72 hours, whatever, in Leesburg, Virginia, in this fairgrounds in kind of the middle of nowhere. And you and I were waiting for what, I don't know, 3-4 hours for the president, for the candidate Trump to show up.
That was the 7th rally that day. Okay, his stamina is incredible. I just can't believe a 70-year-old man can go like he does. But yeah, I was just telling you a story on the break that I got so thirsty in those 3 or 4 hours we were waiting for him. I found a half-drunk bottle of water in the back of the barn. I drank it just to keep going.
Who was drinking that water before you, Jerry?
I don't know, but I did okay.
I love the fact that when Trump pulls up in that Suburban, and it was midnight. I brought some neighbors. My daughter was with me. Pulled her out of school. She's 11 years old. So historic, though. He pops out of that Suburban in the back of this open pavilion, and he looks at me and goes, "Ingraham, you're late." I'm like, What? He's like, just kidding. He's like, what state are we in? He had no idea. He's like, what state are we in? He's like, this is, and he had seen the crowd all spilling out of the pavilion, and he said, we're going to win this thing
and the crowd
on Tuesday.
The crowd stayed for hours.
Oh my gosh! I mean, this was, but at that moment, I was absolutely certain he was going to win this election. I mean, I knew it because you could feel it. I
felt it too, and I told him that like 6 o'clock when the exit polls started coming in, he had been listening to those, and I called him and told him, I said, you're going to win. I just know it. Jerry, I don't know. These exit polls sound terrible. I said, trust me.
They're always wrong,
I talked to him 2 or 3 more times that night, and I said, I told you so.
Now, a lot of people around the country, they say, Jerry Falwell Jr., the history, of course, your dad, Reverend Falwell, who I met when I was 17 years old for the first time in his office, which I saw this morning. That's where I first met him. My first trip to the South was driving from Dartmouth College all the way down. I don't know if I met you. You probably don't even remember. It was like in the April of 1982. I was with Dinesh D'Souza, Keeney Jones, who's now a priest. I mean, we were all Dartmouth students. We drove all the way down from New Hampshire.
How were you in college at age 17?
Well, it was 18, whatever.
18,
so it was 18.
okay.
Whatever. It was, and so we arrived here, and your dad was so great to us. But we interviewed him in the office in the house that we stayed last night, and they opened the door, and I looked in. It was like going back in time. It was wild.
And then you invited him to speak at Dartmouth, and I went with him. That's when I
first
met
you. Okay, so that was that was also in the spring of 1982. So it's wild to be here. There's a lot going on in the news, and some of it I want to ask you about because I think it goes right to the core of the culture war that your dad was involved in fighting, and it continues to this day. The Boy Scouts. This Boy Scout story is now reverberating across the United States. There's a piece in the New York Times today, and it's titled, Girls Don't Become Boy Scouts. There's pushback among the Girl Scouts who say, wait a second. What are you doing to our people? Aren't going to be Girl Scouts anymore.
Right.
What's happening here? What's going on?
It's just a concerted effort by the left to destroy every traditional institution of American society, I believe. And it's just so disheartening. From the NFL, actually, there's a silver lining to that NFL cloud. Liberty just moved up to the top level in Division I.
I saw that.
And we're going to play big teams like Auburn, Army, UMass starting next year.
That's great.
But I heard Sean Hannity say last night, well, I'm going to become a Saturday football guy. So that's good for us.
Oh, it's great for college.
Because we play Saturday football. So
now, how did that happen with the division change? This is a long process, I know. You got to build that program up. You must have built that up to get this.
It took 40 years. We built all the facilities. We did everything to become qualified. But then we had there was a rule that you had to be invited by a conference to move up to the FBS, which is the highest level of Division I. But there were several presidents in each conference. And all it takes is 2 or 3 to veto, and they turned Liberty down because of our religious mission. And so it was just pure religious bigotry. We could have sued them, but then we went to the NCAA. They were understanding. They said this is how Notre Dame moved up. This is how Penn State. This is how Miami. And a lot of those schools never could have moved up if we had had that rule back then. And we understand Liberty is going to face bigotry from college presidents. So they granted us the only waiver that's ever been granted to move up to FBS as an independent. So
what's FBS mean?
FBS is there's 2 in Division I football, there's two levels, FCS and FBS. It used to be Division 1A and Division 1AA.
Okay.
So we moved up to Division 1A, and we'll join schools like Army, UMass, New Mexico State, Notre Dame, Brigham Young as the only independents.
That's fantastic.
It's really good for us.
It is this campus, though, Jerry. I can't believe this is the same place I came to, because I remember driving up here, and I was like, well, where's the university? Like, where's the university?
Back then, all the buildings were temporary buildings we built in the 70s and 80s. They looked like little mini storage warehouses, and we tore them all down.
It's wild.
We tore them all down. We spent $1 billion on the campus in the last 10 years, and we put $1 billion in reserve for
Where are you getting the money? Is it donors?
We were just pioneers in distance learning, adult education. We built the program in 1985. It limped along until 2005, but we got
cassettes, video cassettes, and so forth, video learning.
It took 20 years to really get it up to top quality. But once we hit 2005 and everybody started getting high-speed internet in their homes, we were the only school poised to serve that huge adult market. And
that's stunning.
We got 90,000 students. That allowed us to just rebuild a campus, and so it's been so much fun.
I was so blown away, though. At night we rolled in at night. It's kind of late, but I could kind of see. But then when I walked out the door in the morning, I'm like, wait a second, like, where are we here? This is crazy.
So many universities weren't able to do that because their faculty was so against online education because of they didn't think
there was a bias. It was a bias against, because you have to go to the Ivy League to get a good education. Like I went to the Ivy League, and I value my education. I really do. Mm-hmm. But I have come to look at education in such a different way, and with online learning, with new institutions starting, those that respect our history and our Constitution, and the true liberal arts, I think it's a whole new ballgame.
It is.
We're going to take an early break here at Liberty University. You're listening to the Laura Ingraham Show, because I want to play for our listening audience and all of you across this country a disturbing soundbite from one of the preeminent actresses in the world, dovetailing off this scandal with Harvey Weinstein, mass sexual harassment, abuser, rapist, who have a big, massive cover-up in the entertainment industry for decades as they wagged their finger at people like you and me, saying we were anti-women, helping wage a war on women. Now Emma Thompson has a diagnosis as to why all this happened. It's called extreme masculinity, don't you know? That's what really we're facing in the world. That's what caused all of this. You have to hear this in her own words, and your reaction. Is masculinity the problem? 855-40-LAURA. I want you to go to lauraingraham.com. As many of you as possible, I want you to buy this book this week. Give it as Christmas gifts. Go to lauraingraham.com. Billionaire at the Barricades Tour continues. I've been telling you for weeks that we need men and women like you to enlist in our nationwide campaign to pressure Congress to pass the tax cuts that we voted for when we elected Donald Trump to drain the swamp in Washington. Here's the good news. Hundreds of thousands of you have already gone to taxcutsnow.com and signed up. But we still need more signatures to ratchet up the pressure on Congress. The average tax cut under the Trump plan is over $2,000 per family. That may not be real money in Washington, but it's real money to you. Money you can spend on the things you care about. And if you haven't yet signed on, please take less than a minute to join our cause. And then share the link to taxcutsnow.com with your family, friends, church members, and coworkers. Send a message to Washington that business as usual will not cut it. Senator McConnell and Speaker Ryan need to hear from you loud and clear. You want your tax cuts, and you want them now, not next year, this year. Go to taxcutsnow.com. That's taxcutsnow.com. Is the problem with extreme masculinity, she says. Actress Emma Thompson on the Harvey Weinstein scandal. You notice how we're taking it away from the Clintons and the Obamas and the people who are always calling conservatives, the people who are waging the war on women? They're the feminists. Hollywood includes all the feminists. They're all pro-female. They're all pro-women. And it turns out that there's been a major cover-up of this predatory behavior of Harvey Weinstein, either from women and men who were afraid of him, or who were so close to him. At some point in time, they thought they were going to be called complicit if they raised their voices. But he had the keys to the kingdom. We're with Jerry Falwell Jr., Raymond Arroyo, here at Liberty University on the Billionaire at the Barricades Tour. I think this she makes some good points when she says this is a culture of belittling and bullying. Absolutely. I know that for a fact from friends of mine who do a lot of auditions, and they tell me these stories. However, Jerry, the idea that this is a problem about this is extreme masculinity, this is the opposite of masculinity. There's nothing masculine about the way these people treat women.
No, it's just pure criminal behavior is all it is. It's as simple as that. You and I went to the same law school, Laura. We learned
University of Virginia.
We learned what criminal behavior was. Ted Kennedy wrote my recommendation letter there.
Ah, very interesting.
But it's just pure hypocrisy. Just like Hillary Clinton being against gun ownership for an inner city mom in Chicago while she's protected by armed guards 24/7. Pure hypocrisy. It's nothing new for the left.
And I think that, again, what we have to remember is that for years, conservatives themselves have been bullied, belittled, and blacklisted in Hollywood. So they blacklist conservatives, and they A-list sexual predators.
Yeah, I mean, it's
I mean, they A-listed Harvey Weinstein and all of his friends. And by the way, I think you're going to find out that his manager, his PR people, his other flacks, his lawyers, this was a broad effort at a cover-up, and we're going to see others who have also. And that actor James Vanderbeek yesterday said that he was propositioned by men in Hollywood.
It'll be a great RICO suit because I think it was a concerted effort, conspiracy,
racketeering,
right?
What are we going to expect from the students here at Liberty University? I'm going to take some questions from the audience in a matter of minutes. We're going to go out on stage.
Well,
and
I was one of the earliest.
Any trick questions? Can you give me any help?
I was one of the earliest ones to support Trump. Everybody thought I was crazy. I had the most to lose of all the evangelicals because Liberty has the most assets. But I just was so scared of Hillary Clinton getting elected because back in the 80s, Laura, when you and I first met, she came here. One of our donors put us with an investment banking firm in Little Rock to try to refinance the school. We were in trouble financially. The Rose Law Firm was sent here. We didn't know who they were. We had Bill Clinton hadn't been elected to anything other than governor of Arkansas at that point. But they were the most arrogant, condescending, controlling bunch of people I've ever seen in my life. And so I got to know her best buddies firsthand. So once that, I supported Trump for a lot of reasons. He was a businessman. He's not a professional politician. But one of my main motivations was to keep Hillary Clinton out of office.
The Rose Law Firm. Was Vince Foster there at the time?
Yes, all those people. Webb Hubbell. All those people. I've got the letterhead in my office from
Webb Hubbell. We're going back in time.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about the basket of deplorables.
I could name several others, but it was a small law firm.
Okay, back to the kids, though, at Liberty University. They're going to be asking me some questions on stage. What do I expect? Any trick questions? Are they going to be straightforward?
I supported Trump early, but they supported Marco Rubio in the primary.
Misguided youth,
because
apparently.
he's closer to their age. He looks like one of them. And so he needs to get some gray hair before
men who wear the girls' heels. I'm sorry, no, I can't do that.
Well, there you go.
The little heels.
But I supported
Marco.
Trump all the way through, and eventually over 90% of the students voted for Trump in the general election.
That's good.
Yeah.
President Falwell, a lot of people during the campaign criticized you and others for supporting the president. They said, look, this is not a religious man. Are you pleased now, watching what he's done that has been such a part of, really at the center of the evangelical cause politically?
I think he's going to be the greatest president we've had since Abraham Lincoln. And I honestly believe that. I don't think we need professional politicians anymore. We're all sinners. That was my point all through the campaign, every one of us. And the only difference between him and some of the other candidates is the other ones hid their sins better.
When that Billy Bush tape came out, were you worried? Was that?
Yeah, but I was the only one willing to go on TV and defend him.
I remember that day you did.
The president called me and called me a warrior, and he called me last week after we beat Baylor University. After we beat Baylor in football, he said, "Jerry, I can't believe you guys beat Baylor." He said over and over. He said, I thought I was going to be 5 years before I started watching Liberty football, but I'm going to start now.
Wow, that's incredible. I'm an Alabama fan, as you know. I'm going to the LSU game in a few weeks, November 5th, I guess. But college football it's patriotic. It's pro-American. They don't take themselves, as seriously as the multimillionaires and the pros when it comes to political views. They keep their political views to themselves, and that's what they want. That's what we want. I mean, if it's come to this in this country that standing for the national anthem is a controversy, then we know a lot of people have been successful in tearing at our national fabric.
But Raymond, one big thing evangelicals love about Trump is he's such a strong supporter of the state of Israel. If a Republican had negotiated that Iran deal, he'd be called an anti-Semite because that's the death warrant for the state of Israel.
Up next, live on stage at Liberty University, the Billionaire at the Barricades tour now mixes it up with the students. What will happen? What questions will I be asked? And Raymond Arroyo will do a Q&A. We're going to continue talking to President Falwell as well, so we're looking forward to that. I have to watch, this morning we're seeing the president speak at the Values Voter Summit, and these are mostly evangelical Christians who've gathered. They see a man who has gotten rid of the Mexico City policy, funding abortions abroad. Mm-hmm. He has expanded the list of groups that are now not mandated to cover contraception in Obamacare. What else has he done, Raymond, on the faith front?
Well, to reach out to the three major religions as their first foreign policy trip and engage them in the fight against Islamic terrorism, that was seismic.
Calling to the.
For me, the biggest thing was the executive order limiting the Johnson Amendment to give people like me that head up nonprofits the right to speak our minds, pastors and heads of nonprofit organizations. Big deal.
Fantastic. Liberty University will continue on stage live, coast to coast. Keep it right here. Go to lauraingraham.com for more details on the book tour. See you in Scottsdale next week and West Palm the week after. I'm hearing an echo in my headset, so I'm not sure what we're going to do about that. But
well,
we got a second delay, but James, can you hear me? My producer in Washington is listening. James,
we are back on live from Liberty University.
Okay, great, fantastic. Good to see you guys all. Okay, so I am always hearing about how difficult and hard life is for conservatives on college campuses. Is it hard for you guys? I tricked you. You were almost going to say yes. It's really hard. I have to say I have not been here. This is so embarrassing. I'm really aging myself, but that's okay. I have not been to Liberty University since the spring of 1982. Okay, and when I came here, none of this was here, right, Jerry? None of this was here. It was, we had a lot of temporary buildings. I interviewed Reverend Falwell in his office, which I was happy to see is still there.
Did you approach in a covered wagon? Or?
Yes, it was covered wagon, and we had provisions. We made the trek, but I drove down. I was a freshman at Dartmouth College. And I drove down with Dinesh D'Souza, who I understand was just here a couple of weeks ago, right? So Dinesh and I drove down, and I didn't know what to expect, and we had such an amazing time all those years ago, and meeting some of the students then. But all I have to say to all of you is, you've come a long way, baby. Amazing, fantastic. So we're gonna open this up to questions. We're gonna take, it's commercial breaks, so we gotta pay the bills here. But we're gonna open this up to questions, and I'm gonna talk to you about the rise of Donald Trump, because I know a lot of people like wonder, how did this happen? Right? How did this happen? Well, your president knew. President Falwell knew it was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen, but a lot of folks were surprised. So I wrote this new book to educate an entire generation of Americans, new generation of Americans, and those who still don't get Trump, as to why this happened. It was a populist wave that really went all the way back, if you're really thinking about it, in recent times, back to Richard Nixon, who campaigned for the silent majority. He campaigned on law and order. Of course, that was a little ironic, given Watergate, but nevertheless. And then all the way up to Ronald Reagan, surging through to Donald Trump. And so this book takes you behind the scenes in the campaign, and also my time working for President Reagan in college all those years ago, working for Justice Thomas, advising Mitt Romney informally, and all the rest. So Raymond Arroyo, who is my great partner in literary crime and broadcasting partner, who will be also with us across the country and parts of this book tour, is going to be asking some questions, and then we're going to open it up to the audience.
Yeah, you all get your shot. Let me ask first, when I read the book, I kept thinking, why did you foresee the rise of Trump when even many of your conservative counterparts did not? They just missed it.
The old Rust Belt, the middle class, the people I came from, even though I was from Connecticut, but we were a middle class family, working class family. My dad owned a car wash. My mom was a waitress until she was about 73, 74 years old. They raised me to understand that the backbone of the country is the working person. Those ordinary Americans who don't expect a special break, they just expect that they'll be treated fairly and represented by their government. And so with that upbringing and that lens, I saw everything through that lens. We were very patriotic. We didn't have much, but we're an extremely patriotic family. I understood that if the working people of America become despondent and start thinking that the government treats them like an enemy, not like you're supposed to work for us, then we'd be in big trouble. And I knew when Donald Trump started hitting these issues of open borders, trade deals that empower China, not the United States, and when he hit these core issues of unfairness to the working person, I knew that he was going to do really well. That we hadn't had a Republican nominee and a Republican candidate who had that kind of understanding of the American working class since Pat Buchanan ran in 1992. That's how long it had been. And then Mike Huckabee tried, who was terrific. I love Mike Huckabee, and Rick Santorum. But they didn't have that facility with television and that background of doing battle with the press, which of course Trump did because of all of his time in Manhattan. So those core issues, not his celebrity, it was those core issues that I knew would drive his campaign.
The book is called Billionaire at the Barricades. What are the barricades that the president faces?
Well, this would be a shock to all the Liberty University students and people listening across the country, but one of the main barricades is the Republican Party. How many times can they vote to repeal Obamacare, and then when they have both houses of Congress, they can't do it? I mean, it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So one of the main barricades is the old GOP establishment. And we saw President Trump yesterday work with Rand Paul and say, wait a second, what we're going to do now is we're going to use our regulatory power and his power as chief executive of the United States. And what we're going to do is we're going to slowly but surely stop the federal subsidies to these Obamacare exchanges because they're not working, the whole system is collapsing, and we need to move forward in a different way. And so trying to choke off that money to these subsidies to these states will start getting the attention, I think, of a lot of the Democrats who've been very recalcitrant about this. So that's one of the big barricades. The other barricade is the American media. How many of you watch MSNBC on a daily basis just to check in with the adversaries? How many of you do? No one, a few. Well, they want this president to fail. They want the world to think that Donald Trump is a racist, anti-immigrant, anti-woman, anti-this. Don't you love how he's anti-woman, anti-female? He's the anti-feminist when Hollywood's dealing with its problems right now. Don't you love that? But the media is a big problem. Of course, the Democrats will continue to bide their time until they hope Bob Mueller, is another barricade, the independent special prosecutor, I should say, until he does his complete investigation. They're going to be waiting. They're waiting, biding their time until, I don't know, Joe Biden runs for president in 2020. Nothing speaks the future like Joe Biden, don't you think?
Since we're in front of thousands and thousands of Liberty University students, how did a girl from Glastonbury, Connecticut, decide...
Hey, is anyone from Glastonbury here? No? Connecticut? No? Oh, come on.
Nobody from Connecticut.
My heart is in the South, okay? My heart is in the South. But don't blame me for being from Connecticut. It's not my fault.
We're trying to convert her slowly.
No. I've been in the South for decades.
But how did a girl from Connecticut, you went to Dartmouth College, what happened there that drew you to politics and Washington, just for this crowd to help them?
Okay, so guys, you can't fathom this. A lot of you can't fathom this, but imagine you're in the car, and back then it was called the way back in the station wagon. There were no seat belts back then. We just roll around the back of the car. And imagine rolling up to a gas station, and you see this long line of cars trying to fill up your gas tank. Okay, we had this old VW station wagon, which they only made for 1 year. It was called the VW 412. Literally, they made it for 1 year. This car was made in 1974. Okay, we roll into this gas station in 1976, 7. I'm like, Mom, what's going on? We got to get to softball. I had softball games. Oh no, we have to. It's our day to wait in line for gas. I said, what? I was like a cute little kid. What do you mean? Well, our last name is I, and today the I's can line up for gas. And I'm like, what? This doesn't make any sense. Well, it was because Jimmy Carter was president. We had skyrocketing inflation. We had gas lines, the gas shortages. We had complete mismanagement of our federal government. People were not respecting our flag. They thought America's time was slowly coming to an end. And I was only a little kid, but I thought something's got to be wrong with this. This isn't right. And then I started actually watching, the news, and started following the Iranian hostage crisis, when somehow the greatest country in the face of the earth was allowing Iran to take so many of our American citizens hostage and do nothing about it. And it just, none of it made sense to me. And it didn't make sense that my parents couldn't save much money, and that we had, when my mom explained 18% interest rates, we couldn't borrow money to buy a new car. I thought none of it made sense. So then, like sunshine after the misty day we had yesterday, like the sun rising, then I saw Ronald Reagan. And I said, boy, America is back. And that's how I began my political understanding. It was President Reagan.
You worked for Reagan.
I did.
There's a great line. What did he tell you as you left your service at the White House?
Okay, so I was off to law school, not too far from here, down the road at the University of Virginia. I was off to law school, and I had my last meeting in the Oval Office with members of the domestic policy team. And back then, this was 1988. I had like a really bad home perm. I had really bad clothes. The photo is tragic of this, but I'm in there with my colleagues, and I was the last person out of the Oval Office. And President Reagan was going to sit back behind his desk, and he's like, Laura, and I didn't even know he knew my name. So of course I'm like shaking. I said, yes, Mr. President. He said, make it matter. I never forgot that. Make it matter. All of you today, you're busy. You have classes and exams and papers to write, and you're trying to figure out what you're going to do maybe for an internship this summer, or maybe you're graduating this year, and you're busy. Your world is wild. You have so many obligations. I'm going to remind all of you here today that regardless of what you think about politics, or whether you're even interested in politics, every day that God gives you on this planet of ours, in this incredible country of ours, remember those words that President Reagan told me all those years ago. Make every day matter. You'll have ups and downs and difficulties and challenges and great achievements. You're going to have heartache. Maybe some of you have already had really difficult times in your life. But they will come. You already have your faith. You're holding on to that. But make every day something that you look back on and say, I did something. I did something. Maybe you changed someone else's life. Maybe you gave someone a hug who needed a hug. Maybe you made a phone call to a relative you haven't talked to in a long time. Maybe you stood up for your country in your own way. Make every day matter. Make every single day that you have, because there will come a time where that person you love is no longer there, or that your country you love is in real trouble. And you don't want to ever look back on a moment or a day and say, I could have done more. We're going to take a commercial break here on the Laura Ingraham Show at Liberty University. Do not even touch that dial.
From Liberty University.
Back on the Laura Ingraham Show. Wow, this is
unbelievable.
I got to come. Can I come back more often? Can I teach a class here? Oh, well, I got to come. I want to come and be a visiting professor. Oh my gosh, you can all skip class for the first week. Don't worry about it. But it has has to be one of those once a week. I want a once a week class, like a seminar on a Thursday night.
Oh.
Okay, so it'll be like a 2-hour class, and we'll just mix it up, and it'll be easy, no problem. I'd love to teach a class here. By the way, poor Baylor. Liberty University beat Baylor last week. God, you guys are. What is it, Kennesaw State this week? Is that what you guys are? You guys are playing Kennesaw State? Is that an accredited institution? Oh, I'm sorry, isn't that awful?
Nice.
Oh, that's horrible. Division I football coming to Liberty University. You guys stoked? Are you guys excited about this weekend? So much fun. Raymond Arroyo is with us. You all, I'm going to tell you something. If you guys are here, you're getting your Christmas presents ready for holidays coming up. You celebrate Kwanzaa, right? Sorry, Kwanzaa, the Festivus, whatever you're celebrating. I want you to surprise your parents and get them a copy of Billionaire at the Barricades, okay? Your parents will give you special treats if you do that.
Okay. Laura met President Trump in 2002 at a private lunch. Now, I'd like to know, first of all, what was the occasion of the lunch? And secondly, what did you learn during that time that you carry with you today?
Like a lot of you. Now, this was before Celebrity Apprentice. It was 2002.
I thought you might have been trying out for Celebrity
Apprentice.
Apprentice.
Oh, well, I'm not. No reveal on that. Okay. But it was before, I believe, Celebrity Apprentice, The Apprentice. So a friend of mine was really good friends with Donald Trump, and he said, "You want to come to lunch?" And I kind of rolled my eyes because I had this vision of Trump, because growing up in Connecticut, he was a fixture in all of the gossip trade. So I was going, I guess I'll go. He said, "No, it'll be fun." So we go to this really fancy restaurant in New York, and I'm sitting there, and he walks in a little bit late, and he says, "Hey, it's nice to meet you." And I thought he was just going to be one of those people who talked about himself the whole time. And so I was just ready to hear about his life and his real estate empire. And the thing that was so wild about this is, number one, he didn't talk about himself, I think, at all. The entire conversation was about, okay, how do you make money in the radio business? Like, tell me about the breakdown and the sponsors versus the local stations. And he was just picking my brain on every aspect of the media, and then talking politics around the edges. And so he were talking about George W. Bush was president back then, and he was worried about the war drums beating for the Iraq War. And I left the lunch, and I thought to myself, he's not at all like I thought he would be. He was charming. He was extremely funny. I know President Falwell knows this from his own first time he met him. And I left this thing going, wait a second, I almost got no information out of him. He just sucked the information out of me. And I was really impressed with him. Kind, generous. And at the end he said, "Laura, I don't know where you're going, but why don't you take my limo? Take my limo wherever you want." And so I was like Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I was like going through the moonroof, like, woo, I'm in Donald Trump's car. I'm not kidding. I was calling all my friends and I was like, I'm in Trump's car. You got to be kidding me. And I was so stupid. It was ridiculous. But I said, I only have like 4 blocks to go. I don't need your car. Just take it. It's a very cool car. Just take it. You'll have a lot of fun. Call all your friends. And then he said, here's some antibacterial wipes. This city is filthy. So take the wipes, and it's gross. So just, it was hilarious. And we became friends ever since. So
we have less than a minute. Then we're going to go to questions from the audience.
Questions from the students. I want real questions, no planted questions, no Antifa questions.
Okay, we're going to have to take a break.
All right, we'll take a break here on the Laura Ingraham Show. The Billionaire at the Barricades tour here at Liberty University and all across the country. We will take a quick break. Woo! The students up next.